Okay, go ahead and open up this meeting to the Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board
Hey,
meeting. Hi, David. Wednesday, August 7th at 5:03 p.m. I'll do a quick roll call. Angela is out. Joyce
Here.
Dana is out. Dave Jones,
here,
Ken,
here,
David,
here.
and Terry.
Here.
So our first item on the agenda is to look at the updated design concept from Green Street Park Master Plan. As you all know, it went before council the last meeting in July, and there was some opposition to the proposed concept and a lot of ideas and stuff. So Terry's on a kind of a tight schedule right now, so it's his birthday. So he's going to kind of fill us in on a couple of things, and then I'll take it over after that. Let me just get you guys, did you guys all have a chance to look at this?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, Terry, you're on.
All right, just a little bit of background and history to how we got to this point. SMPA allowed me to write a grant through a program called the MCR program, which is Microgrids for Community Resilience. And that grant, the planning grant and the construction grants were only available to municipal utilities and cooperatives. So we had an exclusive opportunity to get money to look at planning for a microgrid in Ridgway. And as you may recall, I've done so for Rico, Ophir, now Silverton, a couple of office systems. We've been awarded 6 grants, four planning grants and 2 construction grants. One of them was for the Space to Create microgrid, which is a 5 kilowatt solar system and a 74 kilowatt hour battery. We received an $83,000 grant to put a similar size microgrid at the SMPA office. I recently applied for 4 additional construction grants totaling $3.7 million. The first one was for a battery system, which was the battery component of the microgrid for the Ridgway system. The Ridgway microgrid, that's a $3.5 million battery, and we're eligible for $2 million in grant money. Applied for a 119 kilowatt solar system on the SMPA roof office. We were eligible for $94,000. That's an $800,000 array. I also put in a grant for a $1.4 million request for a $1.8 million battery for the town of Rico. Again, no solar. And then another similar grant to the one for the Ridgway office for a 30 kilowatt solar system and a 75 kilowatt hour battery for another behind the meter microgrid at the NUCLA SMPA office. So that's the MCR program. We've been successful in 6 out of 6 grants. We're supposed to hear about the other 4 in the next few days, actually. So back to Ridgway, the original design concept was to combine a large battery, a battery that was designed to provide 4 hours of backup for the town of Ridgway on the circuit, which is south of County Road 5, up there where we would have an isolation switch. So all of the loads on the west side of the highway in Ridgway would be backed up for 4 hours. The original design concept was to take a then large scale solar system, about 1 megawatt that we're still looking at for Dana Ivers property, combine it with roughly another 0.5 megawatt on either Green Street and or Green Street plus SMPA offices. The planning grant has been extended. I got an $18,000 extension and a 9-month extension. And so a total of $63,000 of planning grant money to continue to look at putting solar with the battery as a component of the microgrid, complementing the battery. Since we originally were looking at putting that amount of solar, the 500 kilowatts down in the athletic park, coincident or co-located with the Dana Ivers array, all connected to a battery that was going to be located there. Since that dissolved, we looked at putting the solar in Green Street Park. The original concept was an industrial, it was community scale, not industrial, about 425 kilowatts, which if we got construction grant fund money for, could potentially be cost effective enough to where SMPA could afford to finance, own, operate, and maintain. In the interim, the Green Street master plan process was initiated. The old adage that a camel is a horse designed by a committee now reveals the camel before you. So the bottom line here is this is pretty cool, pretty neat little setup. It's less than half of what we asked for. The benefits to the town are proportional to the size, so it's half the benefit to the town in terms of offsetting some of the town municipal loads. But two pieces of bad news came today. One, I had conversations with DOLA, and there is no more money left for solar in the DOLA program available to SMPA, which means SMPA cannot write a grant to put the solar in here in the park. Secondly, even if we were, the cost of this is not, these 7 disparate solar arrays here would not be cost competitive enough, even with grant money necessarily, unless we found a lot more grant money from some other source, to where this would be a benefit to the SMPA membership, meaning that this no longer competes on scale with what it would have been if it was 400, wouldn't compete on scale with what we might be able to do with the 1 megawatt or 1,000 kilowatts on Dana Ivers property. So this leaves the solar in the plan here as a pretty cool plan that the town now owns this plan. And the town or the community garden or the community apiary are going to have to go out and figure out how to fund the solar. And the SMPA's only role in this would be to try to help offset some of the interconnection costs and then treat this like any other solar installation. The other component.
Can I just ask a quick question here? So even if this concept had stayed at the 425 kilowatts, that DOLA money would not be available.
Correct.
Okay.
Because the time expired on it. And the reason for that is that the grant, the state had 2 pots of money. One was state only money, and that was available for what they called new generation. And that's what we applied for. We used to get the grant for the space to create. Well, we got the grant for the office systems because it had new solar in it. And then the other pot of money is purely federal that they're just managing. It's a pass through. And that's for the batteries and controls only. So that's the $2 million for the battery system for Ridgway. It's the 1.5 or 1.4 million for Rico. And there's still money available to look for battery and control systems, but no longer state-sponsored microgrid for community resilience money available for solar now. Now, having said that, they're going to go try to get more money out of the feds. And of course, right now with the elections, that's going to be a little difficult. So that's not likely to happen for a year or two if they're able to shoehorn more money out of the feds. And that's assuming that there's no change in the administration. So the other aspect of this is if the town wants to find a way to write grants and own and operate these systems. So again, back to SMPA owning and operating, even if it was cost effective, there's 7 different arrays that would have to be owned and maintained and operated by SMPA, which they're not in the business of doing, right? Most of the solar arrays are either large scale community arrays. They're all in one spot, easy to maintain, relatively cost effective, like the Dana Ivers system might be. So even if the grant money were available, it would be a stretch for SMPA to want to actually own and operate disparate solar systems on a town park. Now, if the town chooses to do this, because there's no load here, these cannot be net metered systems, which means they basically would produce energy at a wholesale cost, which means the grant money would have to be sufficient enough to make them cost effective enough to where the value of the energy that SMPA would give for these solar systems, which right now is around 4 cents a kilowatt hour, is much less than the 13 cents a kilowatt hour the town is currently paying for most of its operations. They have a few commercial accounts and there are a few demand accounts, but most of them are effectively residential accounts. And I think they have maybe 18 accounts they have, or maybe more, maybe it's 28. Anyway, so the bottom line is, if I can weigh in on my view of the cool factor of what's here, and I think it's still pretty cool. I think it's a great sustainability park concept that demonstrates 6 different ways solar can be used. It has value, just like a boulder wall has value in the park or a pathway or any other value to the park, but it's no longer of financial value to SMPA to own and operate it. Now, I still have planning grant money available to work on this, which means I can still take the planning grant money and engineer these systems and determine what they should cost sufficient to where that cost structure could be used to apply for other grants. In other words, the town could use the information that I'm going to work on to size and cost these systems as part of other grant requests, like the REAP grant, like a USDA grant, like some other grants that I'm not aware of yet. But the bad news is that SMPA pretty much does not have a play in this anymore. Now, having said that, we are hoping to get a $2 million grant to put a battery in to back up the town. And any solar system that's installed, including the ones here, will contribute to the operation of that battery, that microgrid. So in a grid outage situation, that battery picks up the load of the town, and within 5 minutes, every solar system in town, including the one on Dave's house and on my house and other people's houses, will connect to that battery and reduce the amount of load that the battery has to power during the outage. So these solar systems, if should they be funded through some other means, will still be a contributor to the value of the microgrid, but without them being a relatively economic scale, they wouldn't have cost value to SMPA to own and operate. Questions?
And that would be the case even if the DOLA funds were available.
No, if the DOLA funds were available and they were significant enough and we could buy down the cost of something that's cost effective. See, these arrays no longer are cost effective. They're not a community solar garden. They're, there's 7 different interconnection requirements. There's 7 different wire runs that have to be run. There's raised structures that make them much more.
Terry, weren't you working with Superbloom on this to get this this design out?
To help figure out based on comments what would fly. Yeah, right. and I had pushed all along for large scale 425 kilowatt all in one spot or 2 spots, and that slowly got whittled away. And as it relates to putting my council hat on, looking at this as a park with various applications of solar, this is it's a compromise. It's a 50% compromise on the original size, but even if it was the original size, unless it was more consolidated, it wouldn't be very cost effective. Having said that, if I could get grant money to buy that down, it might have been cost effective. But the grant money that SMPA exclusively had access to is no longer available as of today.
Thank you, Terry.
So Terry, was there a second concept that they were going to put forward? No?
There was a different drawing that looked very similar to this one, except for the tracking arrays on the back were consolidated down on the south end as a fixed array, like originally was proposed next to the apiary. So it's the same amount of solar, just laid out differently.
It was decided that the one concept was all that the council wanted to.
And the background I guess I got from them is they thought this would be more palatable or more acceptable to the community because the solar was further away from the houses and in the back edge of the park, and you're looking at the park before you see the solar for the most part. So that they went with this concept over the one that had the fixed array consolidated at the south end there.
Well, but just know that this still has to go in front of council. They still have to. There can still be another concept.
Yeah, I mean, while that's all true, cost-wise, it sure would be best to consolidate it all down in the south.
Well, yeah, it'd be better, but still not terribly cost effective because of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other distributed systems that are the shade structures and the vertical solar fence, which is very
as we've discussed before, though, those can stay or go. I mean, I know.
Dave, I think we're out of time. I think we're out of budget with Superbloom to do anything other than what you see here.
We would have to increase our contract, change our contract, which we already have done.
Right.
And this is already one more design than they originally had in their scope of work.
Right.
Yeah. So this is kind of a combination of all the feedback, and responses from the community, and so this is kind of the compilation of all of that.
This is the result. This is the final camel that we get to say yay or nay to. And the fact is that there's no real risk in saying for the town council to approve this, because it just becomes part of a master plan that over the course of the next, so many years, the town is going to try to seek funding to implement, just like they have to seek funding to put in the paved paths or the the Boulder Wall or the team play area, the solar just becomes another feature of the park that they have to find money for.
Terry, I have a question for you. Sorry, I missed kind of the Green Street Park public meetings and the last council just from either being out of town or work. But when you are at the Green Street planning meetings, was it made clear that if it was a holistic array that was cost efficient, that SMPA would be contributing funds to it? And then if not, that it's just now part of a town planning project that they would have to find their own funds for? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think much of anything was made clear in those meetings. For example, why don't SMPA put solar on their own property? Well, we are, but nobody told anybody that. Even though they had the information. What the Super Bloom got consumed with was trying to manage all of the various feedback on the placement of solar, the negative impression of it from the local, the vocal minority that showed up at these meetings. So you didn't know, or maybe you do.
Which is why we have the planning process, the public planning process, Terry. I mean, they have to consider those what the public wants. So
sure. No, I'm saying that this is the result of that exercise. But a lot of the information, I mean, nobody really understood what a microgrid was. Some people thought their batteries were going to be placed here. They didn't do a good job, and they didn't let me get up in front and try to clarify a lot of that stuff. So I had to kind of sit there and hold my tongue on a lot of it.
I have to disagree. I think that the public was given information and had full opportunity to ask questions about that. So I have to disagree with you on that, Terry.
Does anybody know? Did anybody in those meetings know that the batteries weren't going to be placed here?
That was brought up in the second meeting.
Yeah, I did. I from the list of questions I saw, that it seemed like there was a lot of misunderstanding then.
Yeah, I just feel like we've engineered this to the point where it will never happen.
That's possibly true. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not what we want, for sure.
Terry, just so I'm clear on this, if we had 425 kilowatts of consolidated solar on Green Street in one place, even if we had gotten that approved by in the planning process, you're saying now though that because there's a lack of the DOLA funds, it's unlikely that SMPA would want to maintain that, and so there's kind of two factors here. One, we didn't end up with what we wanted, but two, we now have less funding to draw on. Is that?
Well, it sounds like DOLA funds could become available later.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so let me answer that question. If we had gone forward with the original design prior to the delay of the master planning process, we would have applied for construction funds, likely been awarded it, and SMPA would have owned and operated it. And this isn't criticism, but it's just the circumstances are that the master plan, tripped up the timing to where by, now that we've done with the master plan, the funds are no longer available this round. Now, it's not to say 2 years from now that might not surface, but the funds I'm talking about are funds that are exclusively available to SMPA. There's other grant funds out there that the town could look at, trying to access and put this in. Even if SMPA were to do it, their cost decision point would be, is the energy that comes out of it competitive with what they pay for fossil fuels? If it's not, that means the SMPA membership, all of us, including people in Nuclear and Narita, have to somehow fund the gap. And if the gap has to be funded by raising rates, that's not going to fly. If we can find other ways to fund the gap, that's what we would have looked at, probably through the Totally Green program, to see if there's green funds that could have funded the gap. And that would have been pushing it. So it was going to be a challenge to see, even at 425 kilowatts, if it would have penciled out. And that was trying to make it as efficient as possible by keeping it all as consolidated as possible. I still think there's value in SAB, this is my SAB input here, to promote this design as part of a park. It becomes part of the park, just like a baseball field is part of the athletic park. The solar is just another component of the park. It's just that it takes off the table the idea that SMPA is going to own and operate it. So the town would have to find funding for it, just like they have to find funding for playgrounds and boulder walls and pathways. So, I mean, it's still an interesting, sustainability park concept. I think it's got merit. It's just that there's no longer, in the papers, there was this impression that there's this immediacy because of immediate available funding. In fact, it even gave the impression that we had funding in hand, and we didn't. We just had a planning grant to, estimate what the costs are in order to then apply for construction funding. And what I learned today is the construction funding round, the one that I applied for example, for the solar on SMPA's roof, and I'm hoping that we'll win, that funding is dried up, at least in this particular pot. Now there's like Susan Holland, some of you know Susan. She's familiar with REAP funding, which may be another way for the town to look to get funding for the solar. And, the town would have to go through the same process SMPA is going through, which is look for the grant funding, determine if it's cost effective to build based on the value of the energy that will come out of these various arrays, and see if it makes sense to, if the grant funding plus the 30% federal funding is a sufficient enough subsidy to make it cost effective. And then there's the question of, does it need to be cost effective? If the town's willing to pay the difference, in other words, let's say the output of these solar systems equates to 6 cents a kilowatt hour, and S&P only gives you 4, is the town willing to fund the difference? That I don't know if becomes a ballot measure or a budget question for the town, but ultimately what this suggests is what we all know, that solar is cost effective in large scale. The tri-state is putting in 500-600 megawatt systems out near Pueblo. It's cost effective. They can actually produce electricity, competes with coal. When you get down to these small scale systems, even a 1 megawatt system, you're pushing the boundaries of whether or not this can be done cost effectively compared to the other cost of, unfortunately, of mostly fossil fuel based energy. And this is the challenge that we all have. I mean, the thing that I think is great, and the SAB, and we should all be proud of, is we've opened up the conversation on this. The town is talking about this. They're weighing the benefits of solar versus the visual impact versus the use of town land. These are questions that haven't been before the town before residents before. This may not have been the outcome that I or anybody else on the SAB wanted to see, but nonetheless, we are at where we're at with it. So now we have this cool design for a park that has a bunch of features, and some of the features in the park are solar. So now we got to go find a way to fund it.
Thank you, Terry, for your input. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Anybody have anything they want to add to this?
No, I just don't think it'll ever happen, because if you had a load, then you get 12 cents, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. But here you only get 4 cents per kilowatt hour. You can't compete. You can't make that work. So.
Well, you can make it work if you can find a way to fund the difference, and that's that's the same decision that you and I go through when we put solar on our house. I put in a $30,000 solar system on my house because it has batteries. That will never pay for itself. So I was willing to pay the extra money because I wanted it, right? I wanted the green energy. I wanted the resiliency. And sometimes you pay for things you want, even if they aren't cost effective. You don't go out and buy a yacht because it's cost effective.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
I don't think the town has yacht funds.
No, we don't have.
So,
Thanks, Terry.
yeah, thanks, Terry.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
All right, sorry guys. I hope I wasn't too much of a Debbie Downer, but this is the reality. Like I said, I'm still proud that the SAB supported this, that we went through the process. I'm still going to use SMPA grant money to cost these things out and come up with a price tag for each of these arrays, so that should the town want to go out to bid, they have the information they need to do that. Or if they want to go out for a grant money.
That's what you're doing with your additional 18K of grant extensions from SMPA?
Yeah, so I still have money to continue to cost these solutions out.
Great, thanks.
Good.
Okay, have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
So does anybody have any comments? I know we're all kind of like,
Too bad.
I know.
It won't ever
This
happen.
is the second,
Yeah.
this is the second plan
this is,
shot down by the NIMBYs.
so
Yeah.
basically,
Are they gonna win every time?
we'll see how council looks at this, because, council, if you were at that meeting, was very much in favor of solar.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of opposition, so my hope is, and we'll see, is whether they say, where's all the solar?
From where I stand, the only thing I could see potentially flying.
Because the thing that I was hoping for was this whole acre.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you know, okay, we have half as much solar, we put it all in the south.
Mm,
We get rid of all that other stuff that's too expensive, just put it all in the south. And then we see what it would take to fund that. But S&P's got to own it. But we
right,
could try to
Yeah,
raise,
just trying to
but we
maintain it.
could try to raise some additional funds to make that happen. But that's all I can see is that would potentially work.
Yeah.
Otherwise. it's
and
not
you know,
gonna happen.
this document, it's a guiding document. It's not, there was a master plan done on this property 10, 15 years ago. Now, this is the new master plan, so,
But-
this
but
doesn't,
my
this is just a
concern
guiding document, so,
Is that if we don't have two revised concepts, one like we're talking about with all the solar in the south,
yeah.
everybody in town, all the naysayers are gonna look at this and say, yeah, we
That's
want
what
that.
we want.
Yeah, we want
This
that.
is the last, yeah.
And it's not gonna ever happen.
Yeah.
Whereas if we had two concepts with some solar in the south,
Let's call the, I had. It was, what was
I
decided.
question whether or not the people living there, are the ones that are.
Oh, they're not gonna like
are-
it,
are gonna
regardless.
like this one,
They're not gonna like this one.
so
No,
I'm not sure how.
they're gonna like, no, we bought this
But if-
property and,
but if we put it all in the south,
yeah,
let them hash between the two and let
Yeah.
the town say, okay,
yeah.
we'll keep a little area in the south. Whereas, so if we get funding in the future, we can put solar in the south.
Well, Dave, I know you spoke up at the meeting, which is appreciated, and hopefully you'll speak up at the next one.
Well-
When's the next one?
This is not gonna be actually in front of council until September. Because it's too late
Right.
for it to be on the agenda on Wednesday.
Right.
With the,
Yeah.
for the original concepts proposed, the,
They all
425
had the
kilowatts.
425,
got
and
it.
they started out with the 425, and then it was.
They were the ones that we did the secondary survey on, right? Like, remember
yeah,
they had additional concepts?
Yes,
And
yeah.
they sent another survey,
So there
okay,
were
I did.
3 concepts, and then it went down to 2. And those 2 had the full 425 kilowatts,
Okay,
and this is what we got.
got it. Since there's a lot of naysayers, like, so if we come to the council meeting, but in addition, would it be helpful, like, if members of our team also sent letters of support towards the 425 to town council?
Well, it's not gonna.
425 is not happening.
The 425
It
is not
won't,
gonna.
it
we were
won't.
talking-
Yeah.
It
To be
won't,
honest with
there's
you-
no way we'll go back,
The ship has sailed.
So,
okay.
So Preston and I were sitting in a meeting with Super Blue, and we were planning on doing 80%. We are working on the concept for 80%. And, I don't know what happened at that point, but, I know Terry was showing them ideas for 50%.
Mhm.
And it was the talk of 50%, but this is not even quite 50%. And it's not.
Well, it looks like
Even
it's
at the
very,
council meeting, we were talking about
Nothing
it being
cost
down
effective.
here,
Exactly.
firmly at the bottom, so that you could have that big array.
this is a very expensive 50%.
Exactly. I'd
That's
rather not even,
very
I'd rather not even show this.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, this is ridiculous.
I mean, we could show it, it looks lovely, but I mean, again, like Terry said, it won't be cost effective, but I think, it sounds like
But I
if you were
think-
able to get whatever, 250 to 300 in one location, one array, then it
Well-
could become cost efficient, and if you could probably get grants for it. And if you ever wanted to manage it, it would make a lot more sense, because there would be one array, one battery versus.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get it.
The way I understand it is that if it has to be 400 to 450 kilowatts for San Miguel to own it.
No,
No, I don't,
Otherwise, it's not
I
cost
think-
effective. It doesn't produce enough electricity.
but we
Yeah.
could come up with some additional funds to make it cost effective.
If there was like a backfill
Right.
funds.
And that'd be the question is, what additional would be needed?
Right.
But this is just not ever. gonna be
Well,
cost
yeah,
effective.
and I think
No.
this is based on the public comment.
There's so much cable that has
This is
to
what
run
this
to,
is
to make
based
that
on.
work. that-
Well, it almost looks like it was designed to be sort of a demonstration solar garden.
Yeah.
We're not trying to do
Yeah,
Yeah, this is,
a demonstration garden.
this is terrible.
yeah.
And this is not what we discussed at that last meeting. And not,
And I think that needs to be voiced.
Yeah, no.
I think that needs to be voiced.
I don't know where they, it's totally unrealistic. I mean, this committee sent him a letter early
Hey.
on.
Let me weigh in. I'm sorry, I'm just showering and shaving, but I'm still listening. There was a second concept and I can share my screen if I can show it to you. It just took where the trackers and put just the amount of solar in the trackers down at the south end. It kept all the other raised shade structures in place.
That's not where we're at right now, so I
Yeah.
I know which concept you're talking about, the draft drawings,
Right.
yeah.
And the other quick point, then I'll shut up and hang up, is the reason this isn't cost effective to SMPA is because we no longer have access to grant money to where we can buy it down. That is not to say that there's couldn't be other grant money that isn't utility exclusive that could be found by the town or by the community garden or whoever to put these solar systems in. And they're, whether they're cost effective from the point of view of the town owning would have to come out based on how much grant money you got, and also the fact that the town as a nonprofit is eligible for the 30% ITC buy down. So there's a 30% discount right on top. On top of that, the grant money would have to be applied to make it cost effective. So it isn't a completely impossible deal. It's just that it's no longer a utility scale solar system that is in the best interest of SMPA to own and operate, but it could still be cost effective or useful as park. I mean, how cost effective is a playground? I mean, you look at it solar like it is another feature of the park and you find grant money to pay for it. It's just-
Terry, I hate to interrupt you, but you should turn your camera off while you're changing.
I did. Oh, no, yeah, I did.
He's probably like, oh.
Hopefully,
Oh my
hopefully you're
God,
not
this is my nightmare every single.
all I have is shaving cream on my face.
Good one.
All right, well, I'm done. You guys can
Thanks.
eat it all up. But my bottom line, and I'll leave it with this is still a cool park project. And if the town can find money to fund it like a boulder wall or anything else, then just put it into the new master plan. It's just like,
Enjoy your picnic. All right, see you, Terry.
See ya.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Sounds good. Pause.
That's one way to shut him up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's a bummer, because obviously we really wanted to get solar installed, and if it doesn't become cost efficient, it also doesn't
It's a
make
part.
sense. Yeah,
But can
And I
I still
think-
find grants? Like, I mean, there's gotta be something out there with the IRA and all the other.
there are probably grants and
That's what
stuff
they're
that you
just
can
saying.
apply for solar,
Yeah.
but because it's no longer cost effective for SMPA to be part of that, then not only would town have to find funds, but they would also have to be owner operators of that solar system.
Exactly.
And with the array of it being 7, it's also more challenging and a more onerous operation
But Joyce, I
for
think
them.
that if we put it in the south, even if it was 200 or 250, SMPA would still own it if we could find a grant that would help.
Totally.
To build it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if it became an easier operating system, like it became one holistic system, then you could convince SMPA for sure, especially having
just-
Terry.
we just need
On
some
the
additional
board.
funds and we could come up with some
But
grants.
it sounds, I don't know how to convince
this-
people
You
that.
don't have to
It
convince
sounds
the
like
land-
every
That's
concept
the problem.
is shut down.
Convince the homeowners.
Well,
It's, that it's a
I
big
think,
block of
you know,
solar panels.
Yeah, we need
That's what
to
they
keep
didn't
government-
When I
want.
was at the last meeting, we talked about moving it to the south and shrinking the size
Uh-huh.
and never talked about even this size. I think if we came back to the homeowners with the plan to cut it in half and put it all in the south, they would be happy. They feel like they had a victory. But if we don't give them that, if we just show
This
this,
is what's out there right now.
I know this is terrible.
It's out in the public right now.
Yeah. So,
So,
yeah, I'll go to the next meeting and I'll say that. I'll be happy to. And I think others of us should do that too and say,
as many
let's,
board members as possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's reserve some space in the south for a 200 to 250 kilowatt system. And develop the rest of the park and see if we can get the funds to make this happen.
It's-
The 11th.
Otherwise.
So that council meeting.
Yeah, we need a new plan, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
In
Wrong
September.
plan.
September. Okay, so.
Yep.
Here we go. All right, so moving on to the next agenda item, it's review of the EV ride and drive event. So just so you know, all of you know, Angela had the same disappointment in this rendering and how our questions about why it ended up being that way. So I'm still back on the other thing, but not this. Why did you do that, Dave?
What's Angela disappointed?
No, I'm sorry.
Corresponded with-
I just remember that Angela sent me an email and had some questions about the new concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be responding to her about that. But again,
Well, I mean, we may
Talking
want
about-
to, for the September meeting, and we can discuss it at our next meeting. We may want to all decide as a Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board to make a suggestion. So it's just not
well,
me or.
made suggestions and suggestions. It's really kind of like, why, yeah. No, I agree. I'm not saying not to it. It's just, it's, yeah.
Right, I think it's
a
more of
letter
like
to-
our votes have, like, our votes as a public have to counter all the negative ones coming in. Versus as an official town board, because
But
now
there
it's
is-
just public input, so
Right.
then the best way we can
And the public
contribute
is just-
as public.
Yeah.
So I mean, so if we show up at that next meeting, we'll all just be public members that
Right.
happen to know each other.
At the next one in
That's fine.
September, so,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I mean, there's one.
And I'll-
That's
I'll
not,
try
that's
to
not
remember.
regarding this,
Yeah.
it's not on the agenda.
Okay,
But you could always do public comment, and just say you saw the concept.
well, I
Yeah.
think we should all.
Yeah.
Just reserve some space.
oh,
14th?
September, September
No,
11th.
no, this one,
This month?
would be the second Wednesday of here.
Second, was it
It's next
14th?
Wednesday,
Yeah,
14th,
yeah,
because it is out there on social media and it's out on, it's on the website,
that's right.
so.
So we just need people to go in and say, we want this, is what,
I mean,
Well, we
you
don't-
have the option to voice your opinion on anything on council meeting, it's a public. There's a public comment section where you have 5 minutes to.
Right
get your
before,
resident.
Right in the beginning of the meeting.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so moving on to the next agenda item, Dave. Great job on the poster.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's in the paper this
Great.
week.
Yeah,
We did a quarter ad on it.
yeah, thank you to Eco Action Partners for the poster they did. Yeah, I assisted, but they did great work there.
who's on the cover?
What's that?
Is that a generic guy?
Yeah, is this generic guy or do you
Guy.
know him?
Same guy we had last year.
Uh,
This year we had-
The Eco Action dude.
Next door.
this year we-
Hey,
this year we had-
Oh,
You got a big guy.
So,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we've tried to advertise it. The last bit of advertising that I hope to do is at the festival this weekend, put some big posters and with some arrows and point people over, because there'll be a lot of people who may not be aware still that it's happening.
Oh, that's
But,
reminds me,
you know.
we get the stands. Yeah, I have them in the box.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put some posters on stands and point people over there. So
Angela has said she is available to help. She
Angela's
reached out to
bringing
you.
her car.
Okay. But
She bought one after the last EV event,
She did?
She did.
What does she have?
a while. So
wow.
Tesla Model Y,
Yeah.
yeah. So, they will be there. Anybody else?
I was
Yeah.
going backpacking trips.
One neighbor with the Audi, possibly a neighbor with the Solara,
Right.
and the third neighbor with the Rivian
Oh,
can't come because they're going camping, but you already have a Rivian.
we have a Rivian truck, we don't have a sedan.
Yeah, they're a truck.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, so.
You have a
um,
truck?
No, we have a neighbor that has a Rivian bike, but we don't. we don't have Rivians.
Seriously, well, it's a plug-in hybrid, you
It's not.
can come, no, you can't come.
That's it.
Bring your e-bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually gonna bring some electric power tools over there too,
Are you?
because I'd love to encourage people to get, electric lawnmower and,
Snowblower, I got
electric.
an electric snowblower.
I mean, those are,
No electric what?
Snowblower.
Like some snowboard.
I did.
I
How?
didn't know
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
More like,
I mean-
why?
Yeah, I was like, gravity, everybody.
yeah, bring your electric snowblower.
Yeah.
Because SMPA will be there and they'll talk about their
Ran on.
rebates. And so, and the rebates are incredible.
Yeah, that's really.
And the pollution from these small engines.
Even for
that
the
we use in the
e-bikes, you
yard.
get rebates. on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
yeah.
awesome.
So we'll have, hopefully some electric motorcycles there. We'll have some electric scooter, so, and we'll have probably, we have 4 dealers, I think,
Nice.
Nice.
bringing a lot of cars.
Awesome.
And we'll probably have.
So just so you know,
15 or
Sharon is
20
gonna be
other
over the
cars.
parking lot over here.
Cool,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
The biggest event of the year in the park,
So.
I know, I'll be,
besides the concert.
that's gonna be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
It was by car.
I should ride the train.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it will be good. And I know SMPA is gonna bring coffee and bagels and Rock is gonna provide cookies and,
Nice.
yeah, so we'll,
Nice. I think it'll be a good time.
yeah, it should be very good. So, we'll see.
Oh, it will be.
I
thought it was a pretty successful last year and just kind of seat of the pants production. And now it's like 4 dealers and.
Yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to get the buyers out there,
Yes.
but,
Interest.
doing it with this massive event that Ridgway has is, if we can get the people moving over.
Good timing.
So, but we don't have anybody playing music.
I'm busy.
Throw the band.
Yeah, throw the band in.
Next week, we got plenty of.
Rehearse. No, I'm not. That's.
All right, so we'll,
Okay,
you know,
so
Sorry.
you need bodies.
Hope you put those up the time you want to get going on this.
it's a good question. What do you think?
I don't know that we have to get them all set up before the party in the park starts. I think we could be doing it, because there's probably not gonna be a lot of people there. before.
I would suggest that you put them up early because people go browsing around before anything opens up.
Yeah.
Or-
And just,
think
so they go, oh yeah, we should go check that out while we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's always the early
Yeah.
peeking around. I mean,
Yeah.
Right,
I'm one of those.
It's like
When
a garage sale.
Garage sale, yeah.
Everybody goes
Except it's
early.
way more expensive.
See it now, no early birds.
Yeah, they say, if you got money in your hand, they'll sell it to you.
Yeah,
is the festival starts at 9?
I think it's a 10. Let me check.
yeah.
Which festival is?
This is the Arts Across the Ground.
Yeah.
I think it's-
Ridgway.
Ridgway Walk Around.
Yeah,
And I really hope the weather holds.
it's supposed to, it's changed. It's at least not gonna come in until late in the
Many
afternoon.
people.
So,
Um,
let's go check that.
8. I mean,
Let's
we may
see.
not get them all up, but we'll, Yeah,
Saturday 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Sunday 10 to 4.
so it's not, it starts at 9.
Starts at 9.
So I think, yeah, getting there at 8:30 to put
Get the
things
signs
up.
up, I would.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if you, ask the folks on the sign in up there in the pavilion, they'll.
Do we have a few tables?
I have, yeah. Yeah, those are the big ones though. I think there's 2 plastic, how many tables do you need?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Okay, so you can grab a couple of those big tables, oh, actually, there's 2 small ones right there. But they're bigger than those, but those are heavy.
Will this be open?
No, but I can get you a key. And, you've got chairs, or do you need chairs?
It'd be good to have a few chairs, but I can.
I think I have some
if you-
outside my
If
office
you give me
door.
a key, I can grab this, we'll use it.
Yeah, I
and I'll
think
put
I
it
have
back.
some chairs outside my office door
Right.
for the concert series.
Does that thing stay locked?
No,
Okay, because there are chairs,
Only-
there are chairs in there too.
not folding,
Oh, okay.
no, we don't want to use
No,
chairs.
you're right,
No.
holding this.
Yeah. Chairs and tables on Saturday. I'm not here Friday, so I will. You wanna stop at the office and I'll sign out a key for you and I'll check and see.
Sure.
So just tell me when you want.
Okay.
Here, I'll set that up.
Okay.
And I'll-
Sure. Sure.
How many chairs?
You know, I've got chairs, let me do chairs. I'll just do tables for me.
Okay,
And
okay, well then I'll leave them outside.
Yeah.
I'll
the
put-
tables, you want
Yeah,
me to just leave them
I'll put them
outside?
right outside underneath the,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Whether it be those plastic ones or the smaller ones.
Yeah,
Just put
plastic,
them back on when you're
plastic
done.
is good because they don't,
Yeah,
They won't,
so there's 2 of them right there.
in the rain, they
they
do.
won't, somebody won't see them and use them and they're
You have-
set up over there.
No, because it's, we leave stuff out there all the time.
Okay.
I've had this cooler sitting out there for 2.5 weeks. Folding chairs, all sorts of stuff for the concert series. And then if it's a bike, yeah, they'll take it, but if it's a.
Pretty safe. Pretty safe place.
Pretty safe. I
So,
mean, the cops are right there, you know.
okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, all right, so I'll get we'll just do that at the end of this meeting, I'll put them out there and you can.
Okay.
Come get them or just leave them until.
Yep.
Okay. Don't forget. Okay, so we are on to, agenda item 3, which is to review. The pending action items, we talked about this at the last meeting. In June, and, so Dave and I kind of went through and added some things and some little changes, but basically, these are all the things that we all discussed about what we want to do, and it just kind of set on the table. And, most of this, well, 90% of the stuff is stuff that just needs to go to council. So I talked to Preston about this, about putting together a formal, way of doing this, and he's like, just have them just contact me, we'll get it on the agenda, and you guys can talk about it. Make your requests. So we don't really need to do a real formal sort of thing, not that formal here. So,
Letters and things like that.
I think that the thing that needs to do though is, in my mind, is we need to prioritize this, and I would say the first thing that we need to talk about is budget season is coming up. We missed it last year, we missed it the year before. We need to start talking about whether put some money aside for, like this EV thing. This was $250 for a four size ad. No, the posters were free.
They won't always be though.
They won't always be.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah,
just thinking about kind of events that this board might have, besides the EV thing, what kind of things that.
I gotta run, sorry, guys, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, thanks for coming by.
What kind of things, so those are things we might want to think about.
If we ask for a budget, if you ask for a budget.
I mean, but we gotta tell them, yes, you gotta tell them, you have to tell
Line
them
items.
what the money's for. You have to say, I want $1,000.
Yeah,
It's $1,000, $500 for
Advertising.
advertising for the EV, right, for, having a meeting for, people interested in electrifying their houses, or I don't know, I'm just
Right.
throwing
Right,
stuff
right,
out,
right.
and food, because people come if there's food.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of throwing some things out.
No, but yeah, that's
But
where I was
those are
headed.
some ideas that, we might want to, because, the money, that way we don't have to ask for, hey, can we, because I would have put 2 ads in. I would have put an ad in last week and this week, but that's $600
Right.
right there for 2 weeks for a friggin' ad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a discounted price.
Right, wow.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things
So, all right,
that you might want to,
maybe we decide on an amount and then we'll figure out how to justify it.
exactly.
All right, but how much do you think we should request?
$2,500.
That's $1,000?
Well, I mean, I don't know, I work the opposite way. I kind of define what do you think we're gonna use it for and then put a budget to it. Like, I think,
That's what.
so the EV
That's what you're
drive,
supposed to do.
drive,
Take a
You could
shortcut.
easily spend, you could easily.
like EV ride and drive event, right?
Yeah.
So we're saying advertising and Deb's saying for 2 weeks, it would have been what, $500?
It would have been 500, it would have been $600.
Okay, it
for
would have been
2 ads.
600. So we
$300.
probably maybe ask for $1,000 because then you can also then allocate some money
Posters?
towards posters or like
Sign,
expanding your
Sign.
advertising.
yeah,
Yeah.
signs for the, board signs for the event.
Mhm.
So that's.
Yeah, and just like putting posters all around town or even like in other areas, getting those printed, but
So those are the kind of things that
Yeah.
we need to clarify.
so, I mean, I'd ask for like between 800 and 1,000 for that. I think that there was a lot of interest last year in going to the Mountain Towns,
Yeah.
meeting.
Which the first year
Um,
there was, we did, who attended that? Did you attend?
No,
It
I think
was-
Jay
Dana.
did, but he was part of council, so it
Dana.
didn't
But
cost,
still,
SAB anything,
so
but,
what's the cost to attend?
I mean, you're probably
I think it
looking
was
at.
$300 for, 1 person plus lodging.
I was
And
thinking that
JT had a buddy who lives there, so I have no idea. It depends on where it's at and how much it's gonna cost, $1,000.
Yeah.
You're off the top of my head,
$2,000.
you're thinking $300 or $400 for the event.
Mhm.
Right.
Because I believe it was like $300 or $350 for the event plus a room for 2 nights or whatever. I think you're talking that kind of money. I think it would be great if we had a presence at
Yeah.
that annual event. Don't
Right.
you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be a really,
You paid my way, I'd go. So, yeah,
what was that comment?
you paid my way, I'd go.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, all we can do is ask and we
Sure.
can say no, but
Exactly.
Don Clark loves going. He goes every week. He's gone every year. That's been out there. So
Yeah.
I think that council would be supportive of it,
Sure,
but who knows?
Mhm.
yep, I think that's a good idea.
1,000 for the Mountain Town 2020
Yeah, and then
annual conference.
I don't know what else which we want, or like goals, because I don't know.
Well, yeah, and those are the things that,
I mean, I don't know.
so this will have to be.
I mean, you may want to just say $2,000, but, I mean, we could probably use a little bit on the website. I don't mind. I don't mind.
Who hosts your website? Is it?
I do. Yeah, I don't mind hosting it, but yeah, you could pay me.
What's
because
the,
It's not much. It's what, maybe 30 or $40 or
We
something
can't,
like
we
that.
can't host it on the towns.
so,
The problem is, the town was supposed to.
we have in our future, to redo our website. So to do, to pay for anything right now is probably not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Because we're gonna totally revamp the website that we've had, if you're familiar with it. It's, the state offered this as a free website hosting to municipalities in Colorado. I think there are 3 or 4 of us left who are still using. Because it's very difficult to, it's very difficult to, keep updated, and it's really, limited on what we can do. It does not, definitely does not have bells and whistles that most websites would have. It's really,
But going forward, when you revamp it, can you get space for us?
oh, yeah,
Space will be easy, and the question will be, yeah, is it plug and play, or how do we do
Yeah,
this? I mean, when we
exactly.
talked about it before, we said the only way it's gonna happen is if we did it. and
do it.
tied
Right.
up.
Right,
So that's why we did it.
yeah.
In the future, once the town has a new website, hopefully we'll be able.
We can be able to integrate that existing website into.
Right.
Yeah, right now it's linked in there. But just by a link, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah. Actually, you know, it's a pretty good website. I think you guys did an awesome job.
Yeah, we do need to get together at some point, the three of us, and, you know, kind of look at revising it. I've done a little bit of revising this summer, but we need to,
So
Give some more.
is there, what's the annual fee on that?
I don't know. It's one of these recurring things,
Is it like a GoDaddy?
Yeah.
Monthly or?
yeah, 35 bucks. I don't know. It's
A
something.
month?
No, a year. It's
Okay.
small. I mean, so I wouldn't put it in our budget.
No, but you
Budget
shouldn't pay for
cuts.
that.
Yeah, you
We can
shouldn't pay for
ask
that.
like, if it's $50.
$50 for, to host the
But if
website.
we, but if we put in, $2,000, that's one of the things you can put in there as a reason we
Well,
need that budget.
I think that's a separate line item.
Yeah,
That's fine.
because they'll easily be like, yes, that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make Dave just pay it out of pocket.
Um,
So, and the funds that, if you guys remember last meeting, Eco Action was, and Dave, you can kind of talk on this as well, is that they were awarded some grant money to help us with the transition between, the adoption of the new codes and, electric ready codes. So those monies can be used for education programs, that sort of thing. So don't know what that looks like, and that's not gonna happen until after the first new year, which will
Yeah.
be tomorrow in my life.
Yes,
I had a conversation with Mike Gill just the other day about
Yeah,
good.
getting, where are we? And he said, it's still,
Yeah.
like you said, it's next year.
yeah, well,
I'm still willing to help, help him out
yeah,
with some of the meetings.
Yeah,
even
great.
Beyond my participation here,
Yeah.
because that was pretty much the reason I got on the board was as a builder to be, a voice of reason
right.
when
Right.
the
Well,
loud
that'll
voices
be
start.
much appreciated when the time
Bullshit.
comes.
Ken, one thing we need to do is come up with a document, information to builders regarding the code change.
And that's something that's
That's,
gonna help.
that can happen now. And Preston is willing to push that out, and
There should be something from the state.
yeah,
So you talked to Preston about pushing this out before the, actual.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Preston's fine with us handing out a sheet.
Oh,
Encouraging
right, that's
people
right,
to go
yeah,
electric.
encouraging people to go electric.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
so,
That's
let them know that this is gonna come, it's already state law, and it's a good idea for you to think about this now.
Right.
And, wire, if you're building a new house, put in the wiring,
Yeah.
now.
so, I'm looking at this as being, this is one of our items, info on, encouraging electrification info on builders regarding code changes, is that the one?
Uh-huh.
So that needs to go up to the top of the list.
Yeah, I think
Closer to the
that's,
top of it.
you can put budget request top and then info to encourage electrification, I think is second, or updating the website, but those two are tops on my list as far as getting, I think that might really make a difference. So, gets people thinking about it.
So here's the big $1 million question. Who's gonna create that document?
Well, I heard you know, Ken talking about, I'm happy
My
to
time
assist.
is really limited. I'm the treasurer for the Ray County Democratic Party, and we are full
A little busy right now?
full steam ahead.
Sure.
And so my time is really limited. So that's-
Does Eco Action already
David?
have something
there
drafted?
should- there
I'd
should
be
be-
willing to spend some time on it, but I've got a bunch of guests coming the next 2 months, so.
Is there a draft
But-
of something?
There's gotta be something out there, you know, this
Yeah.
would be a question for Kim Wales or somebody.
Yeah.
else.
That's a great.
I was gonna say, I feel like Eco Action at some point had a document that was talking about what the changes are,
Yeah,
so we don't have to start.
we don't have to start over, but
No,
I can sit and look at
Mhm.
a draft.
I'll talk to Kim.
We'll talk to-
I will try to put together kind of a rough draft ideas based on what we have from
She should
Kim.
have
And
some.
then we can,
Yeah,
we
And again,
three of
this-
us can.
yeah, I know.
and I can look at it, but I don't want to be responsible for
And again,
it.
this is a sheet to give to builders and get out to people, somehow to people who are building homes.
Exactly. It's, I'm thinking
Architects.
one page, you know, this is just,
But there's the things to think of as you're designing your
think
house.
about this.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
This is just a heads up for them.
Right.
It's like, hey, this is gonna happen.
So,
So,
yeah, I'd be happy to work on that some, but I need a little bit of input information.
Well, that's, you know, and I can offer that. I was a contractor for 25 years and been in the trades for 45.
So when
I'm
we
old.
build our house, I thought about a lot of these things myself. And I just, so kind of a checklist of think about this as you're designing the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the code change thing through Eco Action Partners is good and bad. It's, the bad part is it's delayed us a year. You know,
Right.
I think we, could have
Yeah.
pushed Ridgway to make the code changes.
honestly, I'm not sure that we could have, and I'll tell you why. Because we're so short-staffed.
Yep.
Our staff, but I have to tell you, we do have a plan coming in, starting on the 20th of this month.
Great. So,
An in-house plan, so be kind.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to sit in on the.
Yeah,
Who is it?
her name is Angie, tell me your last name.
I forgot.
She lives on Long.
Yeah, she lives in
Yeah,
Montville.
she
She
has
used,
masters and,
she went back to school and got her degree, or a degree in urban planning. She worked as a planner, town planner for Delta,
yeah.
for like a year, and then she's like now with a consulting firm out of Aspen. She's been with them for like a year and a half.
See, she knows.
And but then
So
her and her
we've
husband
been
just
trying to
moved
get a
to
plan for
Ridgway. So she was living in Peonia and
oh,
now
okay.
they just moved to Ridgway, so then she wants a local
You got
job.
a small town. kind
So,
of,
so now that we have some.
Is she a forward-thinking person?
I met her for about 5 seconds.
Okay.
I know nothing, to be honest,
Did
with you
you-
You know more about.
Joyce, did you go?
Yeah.
Is she gonna be a,
I think so. I mean, she's like, so, I mean, again, she's only like a couple years into her career because she got her degree and then went back to school to urban planning. And so she's only been doing it for a handful of years. We're still gonna have TJ as like our, who is our consultant town planner right now.
But we'll have another body.
But having someone in-house, someone that can be in place, like
huge.
she's gonna be supporting quite a bit. I think that she, she's been to school recently and then working as a consultant, like, I think she's going to be up to date with things that are evolving and changing. She's always interested in continuing education. So I do think she's gonna be a huge asset,
Good.
and really excited to kind of bring town codes
Yeah.
into something more sustainable
So
up to date.
I
So
think-
I think it'll be great.
Yeah, and I think that, these things that we're looking at now, right now, for changing this code, she's gonna be helping with that.
Good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would be sitting on the president's desk right now.
Good.
If we didn't have this grant stuff
with everything else?
with everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're trying to,
Right.
we're working very hard to change that. in this
Okay,
organization,
good.
Get the staffing that we need.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Yeah,
it's
because
clear.
I'm hoping we can lean forward next year.
Oh, yeah.
These code changes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's my take with Mike Gill, is that.
Yeah, it has to be done.
Yeah.
It has to be
So
done. We
he's
can't-
finally coming up for air
Yeah,
but still swamped.
yeah. And we have somebody else coming in, to help. us.
Good. You know,
Yeah.
All right, good.
So can we, couple things, we kind of left the budget thing
Yeah,
and got off on the
yeah, we kind of,
info for electrification, but they're kind of related.
Yeah.
If we're gonna produce a sheet
mhm.
to get to builders and to architects and to owners, there's probably gonna be some costs associated with some setting up some meetings or something, I don't know.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think at this point, I think what we're looking at on that, like I said, the grant money is supposed to help with the meeting costs and things. When we do that, but I think right now it's just giving
I think the
everybody
sheet,
just an idea that this is
put
coming
together a
up.
Word document and we hand it to Deb and she will print it out and we'll put them on the desk in here and they'll get handed.
And
Start-
maybe advertising, put it in the paper too. We might,
Yeah, we might,
you know, that's gonna
Yeah.
cost, that's a cost there, so.
Yeah, I don't know how aggressively we want to advertise that.
I'm not sure because we don't have a time frame on that.
Yeah.
Probably don't wanna.
We have a specific,
I think-
people calling up and saying,
Right.
you know, when is that gonna
Start
happen?
thinking about these things.
We're
But
trying to
we need to keep thinking
preemptively.
about
We have to get them thinking about it, you know, this is coming down the pike.
Yeah.
I think the way that we get to them is through the architects and builders in the area.
Right.
And this, and I guess actually anytime that there's a building permit issued, we could give them this sheet, but by then they've already figured out.
Well, it's
Right.
not when it's issued, it's in the application process, that's when it should be.
So that's when we hand out.
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah,
the
the
handout happens.
other part of the code changes is that Eco Action Partners grant that's gonna help fund meetings with the builders and all
Yeah,
that.
meetings with the builders. and-
So I just threw that because I kind of want to get back to the budget. When is the budget process happen?
Starts in September.
So
We need,
if we put together a budget, how do we present it? Yeah.
give it to me and I make sure it gets into,
So this is probably our last chance, possibly.
no, we have September and probably our October. But
Okay.
it would be great if we could have it done and into them right off the bat. So I would suggest that by next meeting, we have what we want.
I like the idea of a $2,000 budget and, you know.
We're up to 2050
Yeah,
now.
we're
So we're
talking.
2050, okay. 2050.
So
So we
I
said
would
1,000 for the
suggest
mountain town.
Mountain Town, annual conference, $1,000 for the EV ride and drive, event. And then,
Are there any
to
other-
host the website, we're gonna pay to host the website $50 a year.
So are there any other, since I'm new, has there been any other things besides the EV ride and drive that we
They've spent money on,
spent on or that we?
No, because we haven't had any money.
Or is that?
there was, and I'm gonna say this, and this will never happen in a million, well, it could. But,
Yeah.
there was talk about hiring somebody to, be
A facilitator.
Facilitator.
Only
for
if
the
it's-
FAB. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that's really all the funding suggestions that have
We,
come up.
we did do an event at San Miguel Power, we had a open house, it was at their annual meeting. Yeah, right here,
Right.
and we had a table set up,
Mhm.
and we needed some flyers, and there was
I think I printed it.
JT produced some stuff, assigned, and then we did some flyers.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's
That's-
costs associated with that too. Can't count on the town to produce everything. Can.
So it's
Well,
not,
kind of can, because it is a town committee. I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
you really know.
Right.
But, like, full-size posters would be better for your
Yeah,
posters
those are
instead of on, but flyers, that kind of thing, we can do the town. Can. Advertising, in the paper, that's the big thing. And what other, the other advertising? that we-
Yeah, Rock is funding a 3 feet, 6 foot banner that says EV ride and drive event today.
Oh,
Nice.
you know what? So
Yeah,
that kind of-
nice. We'll be able to use every then we do this and we'll put it. on the
So
fence up
I
there.
think that, what I will do is I will, I think we need to have some input from Terry, and we need to have some input from, Angela and Dana. So, I will put this into, see, I will do this. A letter to town council, draft, funding requests.
Perfect.
And then we can add, and you can think about it in the meantime, add, whatever else comes up, and then I'll get the thumbs up from you all, and then I'll just submit it.
So it's
And I'll have it,
possible to add like a-
signed off by you, Dave, as the president of the SAB, and you as the vice.
I mean, you know,
Well, I'm sorry, Dave, what was your question?
I'm just wondering if we can add a line item for
Miscellaneous stuff?
advertising, like, I mean, I would expect that anything that we come up with in the next year or whatever the budget.
It's gonna be mostly advertising.
Yeah, it's gonna be mostly advertising, and maybe it wouldn't hurt if they'd allow us to have an extra $300 or $400 for printing and advertising. I don't know if that applies.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, we could always ask and they can always say no.
Yeah, maybe like add a line item for $100 for,
$100 doesn't buy you anything. You can't get dinner for $100 anymore.
you can't get posters for 100?
Oh, posters,
Yeah,
yeah.
for like advertising, like I guess, it was just like, maybe like, if we.
Okay,
Things
I have
that we
an
don't
idea.
like
How
know
about we
though.
see, this is my thinking is, why don't we add, the host website and then add on some miscellaneous stuff to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
And, pick a number. So I'm thinking
250.
250.
sure.
Look at that,
I was really
big number.
It's just a number.
Yes.
Yeah, 250, like say host website and like miscellaneous.
Comments? Just for
It'd be nice to
miscellaneous.
have some extra slush in there in case
Yeah.
we come up with a great idea.
Yeah.
Can't call it.
Here, and we can't.
Because the
Back on,
other
because you
thing
don't-
is that if we don't spend $1,000 on the EV, we can scoot it into something
Right.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's buffer in all of
there's buffer in
those.
all of that, so
Actually,
I think
it's only $35 to the
250
website, so there's $15 we can take.
is a good amount, and then I'll break it down to 1,000 for EV ride and drive. Mountain Town 20 for 1,000, and host website, and additional advertising and, promotion. I don't know, whatever we want to call it. Additional,
Events.
advertising and,
Events and advertising, yeah, advertising.
events and everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Educational material.
Good. So, all right, so we're done with,
I think the educational material is actually a good idea. Yeah. Because that's in our,
Our charter
our charter, or not charter, but our,
mission,
what am I trying to say?
mission statement.
Something like that, yeah. It does say, provide educational information, blah, blah.
so, yeah, all right, so let's go through.
Okay, so that would be the,
All right, so we check off, we've got the budget,
So we got budget,
info to builders, we talked about
I
that.
think info to encourage electrification.
Kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, how
exactly.
about we just combine those two?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly,
Okay,
okay. And the code change, we'll talk about that more in the winter. There's nothing else that we're gonna do on that now. Idling vehicles is in Dana's court.
yeah, that's in her court.
I think the,
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
and website, again, the three of us will
Tackle that.
look at that.
So I'm gonna
Um,
go, I'm gonna put in here, a website underneath the info to builders, because you guys, no?
No, I keep that separate.
Yeah.
I'm just going, I'm trying to
So-
prioritize.
I threw on here electrification of town fleet because, you know,
Okay, so what is it you want to, on that?
what I'd like to know is when the town is planning to replace vehicles.
Okay, so that's a question that needs to be addressed to the town manager. So again, it needs to be a letter from the SAB stating, I'm not doing this, by the way.
She said no.
I'm not gonna say no.
So can we add,
We need to, what exactly are you asking? When is the town going to be,
replacement?
purchasing their next vehicles and, because see, this has to be budgeted for.
Right,
Exactly.
and can we include equipment in that too?
Yes, so lawnmowers,
Mowers,
other power equipment.
And
Oh.
Yes.
So,
even backhoes, they're electrified now, you know, heavy equipment is now battery powered.
The letters to the town manager for this.
so
Yeah,
this
because
is good
he is
precedent.
going to be, putting his own budget for our, that's his thing, public works, that kind of
This is good precedent.
press.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
All right, so, I mean, because my thought is, you know, at some point, we need to get an EV charger for the town. Because the town's not gonna buy electric vehicles if they don't have an EV charger.
Or
And we can get grants through the state of Colorado to help fund EV chargers. But it doesn't make sense to put in an EV charger for
We
the
don't
town
have-
if they're not gonna.
We can use it,
Right.
Mike's got his electric
Right.
golf cart, pickup
You mean a
truck,
The county.
ATV.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a chicken and egg, and if we know when, then we can start thinking about it. I mean,
But I
you know,
think
So you'll ask the question.
yeah, I'll ask the question, so I'll draft
Are
a
you
little,
getting a fast charger? Is that what you're looking?
no,
Just a charger.
level 2. 240 volt,
What are these?
level 2, 240 volt, that's what the town would need. But, you
depends
know,
on how big their fleet is, right? I mean, if they decide to update and
So
all.
we don't, we do like a vehicle a year, or, so we don't do a whole.
Yeah, but if you do
Yeah.
a vehicle this year and
This year,
then a vehicle next year,
Yeah,
after 3 years, your level 2 charger might not be enough.
right, and it's easy
Get a
when
couple
you,
of
yeah, to put 2 in when you put 1 in, but again,
it
yeah,
happens.
let's see where what the town's plans
Right.
are.
Yeah, they'd have.
Yeah,
to
it has to be at the public works.
It has to be at the public. works.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, so.
Where they can
So,
show them.
Not for public use.
correct, I mean,
Okay, so that's number 3, Dave, is that what you're
or it
asking?
could be
for?
outside the police office here, you know, or police,
I mean, I think Deb was right. It should be
have
at the
to go
public
to
works
the,
department.
Public Works, because it would be used for town facility, I don't think.
And all their
no,
trucks are.
no,
there.
but you can put it outside the police station and have it restricted to, you know, and only.
You can lock
I'm
them.
not sure that it does, at this point.
I mean, the staff is gonna really want it at the public works facility because that's where all their vehicles are parked overnight.
But what if we get the police vehicles, you know,
Then we go over to Public Works.
I mean,
That's for them to figure out.
I think town staff gets to figure that out. I don't think that we should
All
dictate
right.
where
Okay,
it
so
goes.
we've
If it's
now
for
got-
their
let's
fleet,
just keep
yeah.
moving on. We've got,
Yeah.
that's number 3, is what you wanted to move the electrification of town fleet and slash equipment, is that what you're saying here? I'm
no,
trying
I
to
mean,
get this in
it may
some
be
sort
4 or 5, but, I mean, cause, all right, so what's 1?
of, budget 2 is info to builders slash, electrification info,
Right?
okay?
3,
I don't know,
Through the website.
3 is the website,
okay, website, all right,
yeah,
Did we not
Or
already
it's
do the net
info-
zero resolution requested?
Info for electrification.
I think we put that as, 2 or 3, and
What's
we
4?
combined them to. So 3 was info to builders and
budget, info to builders and electrification website,
2, okay,
And the fleet.
website is 3,
and then the fleet 4,
that's 4,
okay.
yeah. All right, board terms and increasing number of board members. I mean, the other thing, unfortunately, and you know, we need active board members. So we need people who aren't
Who are gonna
the
be
chair,
here,
and
who
the
are gonna-
budget, who are running the budget for the Democratic committee. We need
That's
people with
right.
time
Yeah.
who can step forward, you know, and whether that's different board members or just having more board members so we can bring in some people with, you know, who have more time. Yeah.
All our terms end next year?
Yeah,
And that
all at the
is,
same time.
and all at the same time, and that's gonna be a bit of an issue, you know. I mean, you're the only one off cycle here.
But no, you're still in at the same time. because
You're filling.
And I-
Somebody out for Vicky,
So,
so
So-
everybody's gonna be done.
yeah, so I mean, we really need to come up with some way to stagger the
Yeah.
board terms.
Didn't we already propose that to council?
We haven't, because it was
Oh.
never decided. Nobody
Right.
came to a decision on what we wanted. I
But
put it all
you-
together.
You wrote it up?
I wrote it all up and then.
And I
it was
thought we all-
tabled. No.
I thought we all.
No, it has to go in front of county, yeah, so it's all ready to go, just somebody needs to present it, somebody needs to go to council and say, this is what we
So I'm happy
want.
to do that. What's the plan?
What's that?
What's the plan that you wrote up? Can you,
Oh, she wrote
Refreshes.
notes down. That was,
Yeah,
gosh,
I'll
June.
do it, yeah,
May.
I'll send it to you, it just
Yeah.
says basically, okay, let me think, you're talking SAD, all right, so, there's. We wanted to increase it to one more board member. And then we wanted to stagger, oh, Joyce, you probably have the email, I don't even have it here. She sent to me, and we talked about this.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's in my
guys,
notes
I'm
somewhere.
wrong. It was like three will,
we have 3-year terms,
Three
and we
that
have
goes
3
with
new
the
ones.
year.
Oh, yeah,
on this.
okay, yeah,
something like
so
that.
I think my notes said. Changes in board, place requests, so number of board members. We did decide that we were. Either going to keep the same number or only add one,
Add
with that one being JT,
How many
and
do
then,
we
huh?
have? How many do we have now?
We have a seven.
Seven?
We have seven,
Okay.
7.
that includes our council liaison.
Yeah.
So there's really only 6 board members, so, yeah.
Right, so we increase our board numbers to 7. And then
We
we,
stagger.
and then we also, let's see, had term limits, so I think that we had talked about.
So-
4 people that are renewing, or originally we had 2-year terms and then a 3-year term limit.
And then we changed that to all having the 3, but we just staggered it, so,
But it had to stagger somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start
yeah,
somewhere.
we.
Well,
we started out
if
with-
we have 7 and one of them is the council liaison,
So council liaison gets to stay, they don't have to like
Correct.
re-up.
so then you have 6.
Right.
So you
Right, so
have
it's
2
three.
every year.
It's true,
with
yeah.
3-year
No,
terms.
we're gonna do 3, stagger it 3 instead of 2 every year.
Well, if they're
If
3-year
it's
terms.
3-year
it's-
terms, you gotta do 2
You
every year.
gotta do 2 a year.
I'll have to look at but we had this all down, I had it all down, and everybody was like, okay, great, but then it just got dropped. So
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it, because these are notes, these aren't actually what I put together to bring that to council,
Mhm.
so I'll have to pull that up.
All right,
Honestly, and I can't pull it up on this computer, because I don't have access to
all
it.
right, so that's the next thing on the list.
In terms,
You can,
that would be number 5.
Yeah.
you can send me something.
I will send it out to everybody prior to our next meeting.
Yeah,
and then
but
you
we
guys can
did
look
talk
at-
about all of this, and I
We talked
remember
about
you
all of
wrote
it.
it all down.
And I put it all together, and it was like, ready for
Right.
council.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's, I haven't read through it, and it seemed like that. was
Yeah.
Discussed, but I can't find.
I don't
I
remember,
remember if it was an email
So
or,
what we're gonna need to
it was in a
do,
packet.
okay.
I mean,
I
assuming
think
council,
it was either. I think
assuming
it was all
council
in that.
blesses this, then we're gonna have to, you know, look at
We'll have to figure out how we stagger.
Well, I
Yeah.
can tell you Sheridan is interested in getting on board.
who,
Sheridan, who is
Oh,
here, she
good.
contacted the town, she just moved here.
Right.
She contacted the board, and at that time, you know, JT was still wanting, or was not, living in another country.
Did he, is he moved?
He's moved, he sold his house and he's moved, but he has his place in,
you sold?
yeah,
I just saw him the other day.
yeah, he's around,
Mm-hmm.
he's just, or it's under contract and he's getting, I'm not sure what it is,
Yeah.
he has got it under contract, he got it under contract.
So anybody who wants to join, I would encourage them to come to all the meetings. Because quite frankly, I mean, Sharon can come to all the meetings
Yeah.
and
Right.
I agree.
But
I mean,
we
you
need-
know,
yeah.
We need board
We need
members.
board members, we need bodies, you
So I
know,
think-
whether you're a voting member or not a voting,
Right.
so what, you
Right.
know, come join us.
I mean, yeah, and we
So I know
decided.
Sean was interested, but Sean's not looking for equal action partners.
Yeah,
Um,
Listen, Eddie.
Nice.
yeah, exactly.
and then there was another person who was interested who did not, that applied with you, Dave, but didn't get it.
Brian.
Yeah, I've got his contact. So it has to go out like it did before, you know, we advertise it, council selects. So,
The thing, yeah, again, we gotta figure out how we're gonna start staggering it,
yeah, well, I got that done.
but.
Did you have
Well,
anything
I'm
to say?
staggering myself.
You're staggering.
What are you doing?
I'm staggering myself. This is my last meeting.
What?
Yes, you missed that meeting. You were.
I missed that meeting
You were
too.
camping, yes, or something, yeah.
Wait, did you tell that?
I think I announced
back.
back in May, so that August would be my last.
Wow,
I didn't know you were
This is-
serious.
This
but-
is 2 years, this makes 2 years for me,
all right, well,
so I'm self-staggering.
but Mike,
But you'll still be part of that, you'll.
Yeah,
you'll
oh,
still
yeah,
come
I'll
to the
still-
commu- the
I mean, you
meetings
still
and
come to
everything.
the meetings.
Absolutely, yeah,
Won't be a
Yeah.
member, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Don't
and
worry.
I'll-
You can sit by me.
and I will help with what I signed on to do, which was, you know,
Yeah.
facilitate the code change and.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, no, it's so fine.
Yeah, I mean, right, no, that sounds great.
And I just,
I'll be, you know, committee member emeritus.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so
the
I need to
Mary,
get-
Yeah, I agree.
I need to get the, board.
No, I was not kidding.
Changes to everyone. Okay, so that means that we really will have, one opening in this, but again, we can have as many people as we want coming, so. We will need to advertise for that.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I will let Sheridan know that it's gonna be coming out.
Good.
And I was still open to the website,
Okay, so,
working on.
so that's a board.
And
I'm not a
I do
website.
appreciate the
I'm
things
not,
you're.
not a web designer by any stretch.
And then, so let's see what Lynn said to you, because all of this idling is, I'm not gonna put it on there, because.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about the net zero resolution about us, you said, didn't we get that done? We pretty much did, change the year that we wanted this to happen, and it went into Preston and sitting in the pile of things to do. Okay, so that's all I can say on that. I don't have anything.
Well, we decided if we're gonna go in front of council, we might as well present net zero resolution and
Yep.
board terms at the same time, so that's all. The only reason I'm
And
asking.
budget.
And yeah, so realistically, the
So-
earliest it would go to
It's
council.
actually net zero,
Yeah,
I need to talk to Preston about that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure we want to do that with board terms. I think we want to do board terms.
yeah.
Preston needs to look at that net zero. I'm not even sure.
I still have mixed feelings about net zero personally. Yes, I want us to be net zero, but what does net zero really mean? You know, I'd rather us say, well, not buy anything but electric vehicles or, you know, and power equipment or, you know, something tangible.
Substantial.
Because net zero is like,
Well, the whole idea with the net zero resolution that you guys put together was so that it would be a starting point that you could add on to.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think we purposely left it pretty vague with
It was
the idea
very-
that you were going to start putting things like electric vehicles, you know, under that.
and so that
But we
would be
can't even
that-
get renewable energy in our town, so.
Yeah.
Not
That's-
starting strong.
Me too, and I was just gonna say that, it's just, it might be just.
Yeah.
What, you know, people are gonna go, what is that? It's scary, you know, and you don't have a good answer.
right? Yeah, it's just too It's too vague.
So maybe the approach would be to be more specific
Well,
about,
I think that we got a bunch of input from all of the other entities and we said the net zero resolution, and it doesn't have to be net zero, but it said our goal is to be net zero by something like 2050 or
2030.
20 oh.
is what
Oh,
you
I
guys-
forgot.
yeah,
2030. Well, that's really
It's
not
not
gonna
gonna
happen, but,
The two things I'd like to see the town do is one, electrify the fleet and the equipment, all right? And the other is when your furnace fails or your water heater fails or whatever, electrify all that stuff. You know,
so that goes in as an ordinance under the net zero resolution. So like you pass something really vague first, and then you come back in with like milestone goals that are more specific.
And I think that
And
was,
that's
I
kind
think
of
that
how
was the-
every
that
ordinance.
was the discussion we
in
had
government goes. Yeah.
when we went to
Yeah.
net zero by 2030.
yeah,
That was
Yeah.
the discussion we had to, you know, try to get it out there and they'll probably say no, so we make it 2040 or whatever, but then
Right.
our
Yeah.
job in the SAB is to start hitting these things like you talked about, getting
Totally.
those in front of council and say, okay, this you should do because we have a net
We have a
zero
net zero resolution.
resolution
Guys, it-
and we gotta do something.
Yeah.
So that's how I read it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's exactly
That's
what it was meant to do.
yeah, that's-
Right,
I just want to see that other stuff.
man.
Yeah, and that's us to do.
Yeah.
That's what,
The data 2030 still really stresses me out, guys. I'm just gonna be really honest. So unrealistic.
It is.
well, and I think, again, the thought there was, let's go for 2030.
Because
It's like a
let's just-
negotiation.
Let's just ask.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
negotiation. They'll say, we can't do 2030, and we'll say, okay, well, 2030.
Well, and net zero.
So
Why don't we
council can negotiate it that year, right?
Oh, they can. do
Yeah,
that.
they might say, yeah, that sounds good, but we're gonna push it to.
Yeah, why don't we come up with a 60% reduction or, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, something that's not, net zero is, come on, that's,
It's,
Well, we could
And I
rewrite the
think that whole
resolution.
net zero.
60% by-
kind of Like it's, yeah,
So we
Or
could say
it could
60% by 2030 and.
you know, what
65%
about
by-
something, and I know this is kind of off the wall, but I'm just saying, what about something like a sustainability resolution for instead of a net zero resolution, something that would be kind of a broad.
a carbon.
I don't know, I'm just.
Carbon
throwing stuff
reduction
like that.
resolution, but I mean, you
carbon
can,
neutral is better.
Carbon
than-
neutral,
that's
yeah.
better than
Yeah.
Zero.
and you can make that by
Well,
twenty
carbon
forty,
neutral,
but
because
by
people
2030,
don't-
60%,
don't
it
know
still
what net
gets in
zero
front
is.
of them.
Totally.
Which is.
That's,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about. I don't know what net
Everybody's like,
zero
what's
is.
net zero?
There's no
But
zero, is
you
just
don't-
say you don't consume more,
Yeah.
Then you can
Then you produce.
produce,
Yeah.
right.
and I
So
think
what
it's
would-
talking
what would be
electricity,
Another way of saying that,
Isn't carbon neutral the same thing?
I don't know.
Yeah. yeah.
Um, I think carbon neutral has definitely a softer sound.
Carbon neutral says you can consume more than you produce, but what you consume has to be carbon neutral.
Right.
Do you want me to read you the terms? I got ChatGPT.
Because I know they would have that. Jesus says that. He's just like, looks it up. They'll be guessing, let's just do it.
All right, carbon neutral. Achieving carbon neutrality means balancing the amount of carbon dioxide emitted with an equivalent amount of carbon offset. So the net carbon footprint is zero. So that can involve reducing emissions as much as possible, and then you compensate for the remaining by either investing in projects that remove or reduce carbon from the atmosphere, such as deforestation. So essentially, you're getting credits.
Right.
You can be carbon neutral by reducing and then purchasing credits.
You can buy your way out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, net zero refers to reducing greenhouse gas emissions to as close to zero as possible, with any remaining emissions being balanced by removing an equivalent amount of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. The concept of net zero often includes not just carbon dioxide, but all greenhouse gases.
Sounds-
Yeah.
That's,
I mean,
It's a comprehensive approach to drastically cut emissions through various strategies and technologies.
personally,
Some of
I
which
just
haven't
like to
been
say
invented yet.
electrification. How do we?
Yeah,
electrify
net
the
zero
thing?
is pretty tough. It's all greenhouse gases versus carbon neutral is really focused on carbon dioxide content.
Oop.
And then, yeah,
But offsets are kind
Yeah,
of,
that's a,
I mean,
Yeah,
we
it's
just need to
kind of like-
electrify.
Well,
How do we
but you
electrify the
can
town?
define that. You can say like a carbon neutral resolution, but then define that by saying town's goals are to be carbon neutral by offsetting carbon and not purchasing more than X% carbon credits. You know, like you can limit that and say, you can't just be carbon neutral because you pay into the pot enough. You're maxed at like 10% or something like that.
If the town isn't gonna pay into
A town isn't,
No,
they're, in reality, they're not
They're
going
not.
to.
I just want the town to electrify. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, I
a,
mean.
there are other
it's
carbon
not.
neutral technologies besides electrification, right?
Totally.
Well, yeah, but,
Maybe not that this town can do, but I mean,
yeah,
there's hydrogen power and.
but there's not, we're not gonna do hydrogen power. I mean, you know, I mean, electrification
Maybe,
is,
maybe I let go.
I mean, that's where we're going is electrifying. And, you know, tri-state is being forced to make
Finally.
their
But
electricity
another-
green.
Another aspect of net zero is to reduce your consumption. So it's not, that's not electrification, that's reducing consumption. So I think if you focus just on, I mean, I agree with you. I think we need to electrify. That's a huge component of net zero and decarbonization. But there's other things that maybe we'll think of that the town could do that contributes to a net zero decarbonization.
No, and I agree with you completely. And when you look at the CAT plan, although electrification is probably, you know, looking at residential electrification is going to be one of the largest percentages we can impact. There's still goals in there for waste reduction, for also promoting for composting, like a lot of other things that would also kind of offset our footprint. That, you know, we as a sustainability board should be advocates for.
And the,
Yeah.
you know, practically speaking, the overwhelming aspect of it that will contribute to that is electrification.
It is.
And that's where the biggest bang for the buck is. But I think as a board, we have to be looking at these other things that
Yeah.
can contribute.
I agree. I just want the town to focus on.
Yeah.
And we can do that. We can start.
Right.
Well, I
with
think we have
the-
to talk about what is doable. And net zero. It's not doable. Not in my lifetime, maybe in yours.
And it's also really challenging because if it gets put a lot on builders and then the builders just have to buy more expensive stuff and then their pricing goes up. And then we also feed that cyclic issue of no affordable housing.
Right.
You know, we're already at that point, like those riverfront.
Oh, I saw those today. I saw them.
I
The
didn't,
prices on those?
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're
so I
like
gotta tell you,
1.3.
no, I have to tell you this. They've got on over here a 538 square foot
Apartment.
apartment
Really?
over here,
Condo.
this
On the,
Riverfront
not
Village.
the tiny homes.
No, the Riverfront Village, this big monstrosity
Right.
right here. Okay, so it's $750 a square foot is what they're asking for. It's 500 and whatever that comes out to.
Yeah, there's,
$538,000 for a 538 square foot.
and they have,
room.
yeah, there's a 3-bedroom that's like, whatever, 2,200, so it's going for like 1.4 million.
right.
A square
yeah.
foot,
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I heard 700 a square
For
foot.
750, I looked, because I have the flyer.
Yeah.
In front of me, and Mike and I'm going, what? And so I'm calculating this, I'm like.
Dude, it makes Main Street look affordable. Already.
so back to this net zero thing, just
Sorry.
a question I
Yeah,
have.
it's
is
like that.
Yeah,
The resolution that we drafted, that was for the town's operations to become net zero, not for the city, the town of Ridgway, you know, individual people to become net zero at their homes or whatever.
well,
what-
the idea is for the town.
This is a town, this net zero resolution was the town of Ridgway, not the.
Not the
actual-
government.
Not the government.
Oh, the town, okay.
The
so that
entire
answers my
town,
question. I thought-
residents of.
I thought we were talking
No.
about the town's operations, so
Right.
That's a good point, because if it's the whole community,
then this,
how are you gonna require people to use
Exactly.
less?
and now
And off?
we as SAP, there's a whole nother set of initiatives that we need to or can come up with to replace water heaters with heat pump water heaters,
Right,
and things like that, that we could be
You
involved.
can't force people,
You
you
can't
can make them available.
No, but, right, so, but my point is that knowing what this net zero resolution is for helps guide our
It's
activities.
for the community, it's
Yeah.
not for specifically the town
Well,
government,
and the other problem is,
that's what.
and Terry and I argue about this all the time, but because fundamentally, I disagree with net zero. But he wants to make all the houses net zero, all right?
Right, and so
That
did
means, that
JP,
means that you,
completely,
right, that means you generate as much as you use.
right,
All right, but that is not cost effective because they are in the process of cleaning up the electricity that we get from Tri-State, all right? They can build a huge wind farm and a huge solar farm, and they can turn their electricity green for much less than it
Right.
costs to put something on a roof.
Well, and the point is, we can't force people to put electric on their,
No, you can,
but there, people.
according to Terry,
Yeah,
and there are places that do that,
No,
but
so
I
that's
personally think
no.
it's,
we're cleaning up our electric grid. We just need to electrify and then we can use that electric grid, so. But,
well, so I think we're calling into question this net zero resolution
Okay.
before we.
Yeah.
Before
I think we are calling that.
before Preston spends a lot of time. looking
Yeah.
at-
He will ask me before he delves in that. It's honestly, it's on the
Yeah,
file.
I
and I'm
think it's
sure
ill
he's
conceived.
going on the file this way.
And if we were gonna go forward, it would have to be a carbon neutral, rebrand it.
Oh,
Because I'm with
Actually,
you,
do send it to
it's
me.
just not,
Yes.
yeah,
it's,
So it won't be-
Right.
No, I,
you
we,
can't
already
force
done for
people
you.
to use
just
less,
so we have.
to
Yeah,
watch
that's
less
great.
TV
Put it
or,
in SAB file.
Yeah.
not heat or cool their homes, you can't force them to do that. It's
Okay.
just not
So,
wired
basically, I'm gonna just,
table.
this is gonna go to the bottom of the list.
and we'll talk about it.
Now we'll talk.
And we'll
Okay, so
rename it.
net zero bottom of the list.
Let's call it,
Okay, I have 15 minutes, guys, and I have.
call it carbon neutral or something else.
Or we could say as SAB, we want to focus on, to your point, electrification and not worry about net zero resolutions, it's.
Yeah.
Electrification resolution or something.
Right.
Yeah.
If we want to go that route, because the rest,
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the town specifically electrified,
Yes.
all right? Their
the town
vehicle,
government.
Yes.
Town
town of
government.
Ridgway.
Right, so there's two
Like-
aspects to this. There's the town government and the electrification. I personally like to see people put in heat pump water heaters and heat pumps.
number two.
So
But-
that's another
But that, yes,
initiative.
that's another initiative.
And I don't think we need
That's not something the town votes on what they do.
right,
So, but the town can vote on what the town does.
right.
And I'd
Well,
like
the
to see
town
it.
can vote on what they require of the citizens of, I mean, if they want to change the.
With new
codes to where-
construction.
Exactly.
Construction, absolutely,
Construction,
that's what the whole building code.
exactly. We could require new
So,
construction to this, old construction, if your water heater gives out, you have to replace it
I
with a heat
think
pump water heater.
the
We'll have to talk about
the
that. but
things
yes.
that we're talking about, the info to encourage electrification, this is all code related. So these are things that are gonna come down the pipeline for homeowners, new homeowners.
Right.
I don't think it's addressing, I don't know, if it's addressing existing residences who,
It can't.
No,
yeah, because then you're forcing them, if they have a broken water heater, to go into
right.
Well, and you can
Yeah.
incent them to do
There's gotta
that.
be some
Incentivize
incentive.
My
Exactly.
daughter runs a program for the state of California to incent people to replace.
And they have FMPA and eco action, don't they
FMPA,
have rebates right now? Yeah,
Yeah.
They do.
Which is on our website,
It's on our
right?
website, so we, yeah,
Yeah.
so we educate, we
There's-
encourage,
You can incentivize it until you're blue in the face and you can't make it.
but the
Yeah,
town
So,
can make the town's decisions. And that's what
Right.
they can vote on, and they can say, yes, we will do
Commit to
electric
this,
vehicles,
yeah.
and when the water heater goes out here, we will.
okay. So I
That's
think
it.
that this
That's all.
electrification of town fleet.
It sets an
equipment,
example.
we got it at number 4. We've got the board changes at number 5, net zero is down to end of the pile. Until we figure out what you want to do
Okay.
with that.
That's fine.
Yeah, we need to, idling, it's gotta go down there with it. Cause that's a Dana thing.
She did send a draft out. I don't know.
She did not, she did not do, I asked her to put a letter together, a formal letter, not an email.
Right.
I got something from her, an email with a
It
letter.
wasn't, did you read it?
I did, and I didn't think
It was
it was
not,
very good.
it was not, it needs, and I think Preston read it and, he's not gonna present that.
No.
He
it
needs a letter, that's a
Serious
formal
editing.
letter from the SAB, or it's gonna look like it's just from Dana. So it's gotta be, it really needs to be, a letter stating, this is what we'd like to see as the board. So I,
I think, I mean, it stays on there.
oh, it's gonna stay on there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So it's not gonna be, well, I mean, we can put it at number 6,
Matter. Yeah, I mean, we can always
I
go
like-
down the list.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
can
like
go.
number
then
6.
we have like party.
And if we've already done budget, code stuff is gonna be kind of,
Those three can.
that will
lump together.
happen, yeah, the code stuff, the info is already on there, it's on number 2. So this quarterly update of regional climate action plan really needed to have some members of this board, present for that quarterly. I was there and John Clark was there, and I know Dave, you
I was supposed to be there, but y'all changed the time on me,
did
so I
time
signed in
change,
an hour
so,
late.
yeah,
When's the next update?
It's a yearly thing, so,
it's a quarterly thing, we're trying to do a
Quarterly
quarterly
thing?
thing.
really?
Yeah, we're really trying to get a quarterly update,
Okay.
but trying to get all the municipalities involved to do that, is kind of hard. So it may be
I
an
think
every
that's-
6 months, it may be an
I
annual,
think
but
6 months. would be-
whatever it's gonna
It's probably
be,
two.
we need to have that, we need to have presence there.
So I'm
Um,
happy to try to attend if we have others. I mean, the more the merrier as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. But,
We don't have date set though, right?
no,
Okay.
so if you'll put
Equal
that out,
Action, reaches out on,
Okay.
if
on
you'll
that one.
make sure that we're aware of it.
Yeah.
And then we can raise hands who.
Yeah,
who can
yeah.
go.
yeah. So, that's it. That's it on this.
And the
I'll try and.
minutes from last week.
What's
look
that?
good. The minutes from last month look good. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
on it.
Second.
Great.
Were you here?
No.
Then you can,
Second,
thanks.
I was like, wait, no. Wait, was I?
I don't know, what do the minutes say?
Wasn't one last, it was June.
Let's see,
Yeah.
do we have,
June. I
Yeah.
didn't remember.
So-
The June one.
There you
So
go.
I just missed the July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a June.
Yeah.
Twice.
we have,
Cause the July one didn't
we
happen.
have-
Right.
We do not. Or do,
Four of us.
There's 3 of you.
well, I
Only
wasn't
three.
here. I have to abstain.
But
No,
there's
you're
three-
still a
three
member.
voting.
Member.
I'm still a member right now.
This is your last meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're still
So you're
a
still
member.
But I
No, we
wasn't,
only need
I wasn't
three.
at that meeting.
We only need
To
3,
approve.
doesn't matter, we have 3.
Doesn't matter if I wasn't at. the-
okay, it's unanimous, we approve.
Wait, what's Dave?
Dave was there,
Yeah, Dave.
so there were
Dave-
3
oh,
members.
you three.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, so we talked last time about changing the meeting from September 4th to Tuesday, September 11th. Y'all remember that?
I do not remember.
Okay. So I want to make sure that's still okay. I'm gonna be on a backpacking trip that week.
Oh, I remember that part.
Preston will not be available.
You said Tuesday.
So Tuesday, September 10th, and that
10th,
seemed to
got
be a good time at that point. But I probably dropped the ball and didn't reach out to you all again to see if that was still good. So
Tuesday, September 11th, 10th.
10th. 11th is the council meeting.
Okay.
So we can't, or we'd have to move it out farther than that. Tuesdays are usually. So Tuesday, September 10th at 5 p.m.
Will you just update the meeting invite?
I will.
Okay. I was like, I can't. I think that because you were there.
Yeah, I'm not, actually, that's why it comes from Preston, because it's under Preston, so I go in there, log in as him. I will do that. So, anybody here?
Works for me.
Okay. Okay, and I thought Angela had said it was good for her, and Joyce said it's good for you, and Dave, good for you, and if you're around, with that. And I'm sure Terry will, he said he wasn't gonna be available tonight, not here, I knew he was gonna come in, like, yeah,
So
right,
funny.
Okay, so, does anybody else have anything? Sorry, I sort of just kind of jumped in and ran this thing, so apologize if this.
No,
You're fine.
thank you.
Okay, so it is 6:53 PM. We'll call this meeting adjourned at 6:53.
So
Right.
outside the meeting,
Let me just,
can somebody explain to
let me
me,
just stop.
because I wasn't around, but what happened? How come they weren't able to get solar on the parking area? Next to the athletic field?
Recording, hang on.